reminisce about your marathon, which was about 10 days or so ago now. When I contacted you shortly afterwards, and you were not surprisingly completely bamboozled by the whole thing. Your phone was probably going crazy. Loads of requests, and everybody wanting a bit of you. How's it settled in now, or how's it sunk in? Or we're just over a week or so since it.
I don't think I'll ever fully digest it because it really was that much of an amazing moment for me. I think the thing that's I'm still digesting, actually, the biggest thing is the response, because I mean, you get so used to in your career, kind of, well, certainly myself and Jemma have always internalized things a lot, and you're always just trying to find a way to be successful and just keep fighting. And so, and we obviously there was no planning of having a child the week of the race. I mean, when we found out we were expecting, the trials wasn't set, there was no date.
No, of course.
And obviously we were, when we did find out we were pregnant, it was obviously we were well into the pandemic, and in lockdown and stuff. So we were looking to start a family, but probably not till after we knew after the Olympics last year. So so once that happened, and when things were kind of, you started to look at the dates and think this is going to be crazy, it's going to be a crazy week. We really internalized a heck of a lot of it, and so I've never felt such a suppression of emotion and a suppression of hurdles that I was trying to kind of to find a way to get it to happen. That when it happened, I was just internally combusting.
Yeah.
But when I came out of it and saw what people were saying, seeing the article you written, and so many people
BBC News at 6 o'clock and 10 o'clock that day, which doesn't happen very often for athletics.
No, I keep joking to friends about I was a boom. You know, when they do the kind of the headlines today, and they're like boom, so and so, boom, and I was like at the end a boom, like Chris wins the Olympic trial, and I was like, this is just, because Sophie Rayworth texted me after the race to say, you're going to be on the headline news tonight, and
she was the newsreader that day, wasn't she?
Yeah, because she's a keen runner
as well.
Yeah. So she loves her running, and I've met her once before at the Great North, and I follow her, and she really does enjoy, just loves running as a lot of people do. I think a lot of people that work for the BBC. I think obviously the Steve connection, a few others, and so I just couldn't. I've had so many people say they cried when I finished, just off the emotion of it, and it's been so humbling that moment I was able to share, and people kind of drew on that emotion of it, and I think that's the thing that's kind of just made it even not just more special, but even more harder to digest. That it was like something that I was fighting to achieve with Jemma and myself, and obviously little Theo, but in a slightly different way. He was just trying to not be a nuisance. He was just trying to play his part and just being a little baby. And we were so proud of ourselves. And every day I just couldn't. Just the messages were so lovely. And I'm struggling for words because it's still hard to kind of get my head around, and I'm still digesting what we achieved. Like to do it was just it's just a bit crazy, really.
I think it was like as far as athletics stories go, it was like a perfect storm of things, because there's the baby element, your age, the fact that you drifted off the pace for a while, and it was like this kind of comeback during the race, your celebration at the end, which kind of went viral on a few people's social media, because which I was going to ask you about as well. What was the stuff where you were kind of pointing to your head when you were going through the
I did mention that to someone, and I said, "Oh, you don't quite see me," point to my head, because I did an interview with some guys in America, and I said that one of the things I've done in the latter stage of my career is I've had to really think basically about connect my body and mind a lot more when it comes to how I've executed training. I mean, Alan Storey as my coach, we he's not able to watch my races, so it's all done through feedback and afterwards, and we're coaching in a virtual sense and have been for years now, and we rely a lot on me interpreting and explaining, and that's always a difficult thing to do. And so I've had to really, and life kind of takes over. There's are other things going on in my life. I'm not like the full-time athlete. I'm not a full-time athlete in the same sense of the word I was when I was living in America with Oregon Track Club. I don't have quite the same structured lifestyle. So I have to really be a lot more in tune with my body and listen to my body, and not act like I'm 25 with everything. Every moment of the day is being 100% focused on athletics. And so I have to really be mindful of my body and mind, and also when I'm racing, and I have to really manage myself on and off the race course. And I did that on the day, and that was me just basically saying that was mind over body in a lot of ways.
You'd won it with your physically and with your talents, but you also won it. You won the mental game during that race by having the sense to kind of back off the early pace and realizing that the twists and the bends, possibly was the kind of course where you needed to back off a little bit, and it was all intelligent decisions that you made during the race, which obviously came good in the latter stages. So is that kind of behind the pointing?
That's with it. That's part of it. Yeah. I mean that is part of it. Like I say, it's part of how I got to the start line. You have to think about it and manage yourself, because there's so many emotions that were going on. But also, like you say, during the race. But the thing is that again with the race and the reasons behind backing off, it was there's a few things in a marathon you can't really fully know until you get going into a race, and one of the big ones is I didn't know how the course is going to be running. I mean, you can look at pictures, you can walk it, till you actually get into a marathon rhythm, you don't know how the corners, the weather, how you're going to feel, because again with marathon it usually is 2.5 weeks since your last really hard effort, and so you're overly rested going into a marathon compared to others. So there is that bit of nervousness. It's been a while since my last hard effort.
You get paranoid that you've lost your fitness and all this stuff.
Exactly.
It's a funny period, isn't it, for a runner?
Exactly. And we all go through it, and no athlete's immune from that. And after half an hour, I realized that this wasn't the pace we were operating at didn't suit me. I was not cornering well. I was coming off it I was having to surge too much. I wasn't enjoying the rhythm we were running at, and I thought I can't keep doing this. So I didn't back off. I just went into my own rhythm. So I took the corners, I took the course at my own rhythm. And I thought if the gap opens, it opens. But the thing about it was, as it started to open, I didn't fight it. I allowed it to do, because I knew I needed to get from half an hour to an hour and a half in my own way, and I had to ignore what they did. And I thought, right, I'll deal with it. The problem was when I got to an hour 75 minutes, even to an hour and a half, you're looking at it going, look, if they're in great shape, they're gone. There's nothing I can do about this. And so there's a real leap of faith of the fact that I've got to deliver the best me I can, and that's all I can do at this moment. Even though there was a lot of negative information coming at me, like I had at one point, I think it was a 35-second gap. And I thought, that's a lot. That's a big gap. I didn't feel like I was in a position to pick up enough to do that. So there was an element of, look, just try. I'm still on course to run the qualifying time. All you can do is focus on that. You have to kind of ignore the fact that they're away, and there's 3 of them away. It wasn't just one, it was 3 athletes were away, and they're all capable. Well, Ben's run the time, Dowie's run the time, Mo clearly is feeling good. So it wasn't like these were athletes that I thought necessarily had overcooked it. It was a case of all I can do now is deliver myself around this course in the most efficient way for me.
Yeah.
And it wasn't till I saw Callum in the distance had a slight gap on them. So even though he's still pacing, I saw a small gap between them. And I thought, that's strange. That wouldn't be happening if they were still feeling good. And that was the first glimpse. I thought, oh, just stay doing what you're doing. They might be it might be pinching for them. And it was literally about a mile and a half later, suddenly it just shrunk. And it wasn't, I think I need to see the splits, but I think I maintained and they slowed.
Yeah.
And there's no bones around it. I mean, as much as I closed that gap and it looked great, but I was managing my own. I just managed what I was doing well for me.
Running your own race, basically.
Say again, sorry?
It's running your own race, basically.
It is, but it could easily have gone wrong because Dowie, if he was, I don't know what shape he felt like he was in, or whether he felt like he was in better shape when he ran 2:9, but he's the kind of athlete that could have possibly gone at that pace and stayed gone. But all of them possibly could have done, but there was no. I certainly wasn't looking at it going, they're going too hard, because it wasn't like, I think at halfway they only had a 15-second gap. I think there was 64.45 and I was 65 flat. And, you know, that a part of you is going, that's not outrageous for them at all by any stretch of the imagination. But I just knew that I had to stay where I was. And the other thing I was trying to say to myself is, well, you don't need 3 to come back to you, you need 2. Yeah. So there is that at play. So there was a lot of stuff that went through my mind. There was a lot of emotions going through my mind at that point, and they certainly weren't all positive. But what I do know is once I'd caught them, I've never had such a rush of, I can do this.
Yeah.
Not just I can do this, I'm doing this. Like the last 2 laps, it was just, I timed it right for myself. I was feeding off what was happening to them, and it was a case of just don't cramp. Yeah. But again, that was a lot to do. That was all to do with my own race execution. Like if they'd have run 2:10 flat, then they'd have stayed gone. I'm not looking at it going, I'd have run 2:10 flat. It was a case of I might have found a bit more, but it was a case of I just locked into a rhythm, and that was my strongest race.
Your helper on the day was Mike Skinner.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
Was that because you just allowed the helper? Was it difficult to pick one person to help, or was Jemma completely out of the equation?
Yeah, no, it was never, because even when we didn't know if little Theo was going to be born before the race, so there was a chance, like we'd done the calculation, he might be born on the day of the race. We were like, this could be, that'd have been messy. But there was no, I mean, Jemma holding bottles imminently going into labour was not a thought process. Leaving little Thea at home while Jemma came and held bottles. No, I mean, Jemma wouldn't have even wanted to probably do it even if there wasn't that scenario. But Mike is a lot of people will know Mike Skinner because he's an ex-athlete, and he's my age, and he now is part of my agent group, and a lot of people
good runner
know.
as well. Superb runner,
really good runner, gets it. Like we had a discussion the night before, and he said about what information do you want to send, and it's me to say, and I said, Mike, you get it. So there's nothing you can. I know you'll be able to shout. You'll be able to read the situation and know what I need to hear. And I said, listen, just tell me what I need to hear. You'll read the situation well. He actually, so he was, so where the drink station was, he was going over to the other side of the course before we did a switchback to give me information, and then running back to hand me drinks. So he didn't give me information and drinks at the same time, because it would have been a bit overwhelming. And one of the time he told me after the race, he said, on one of the sprints back, he pulled his hamstring. So I didn't get him on the last lap to give me info because he couldn't get there, because he thought I might not get back in time to give him a drink. So he had to leave it for the last lap or two. And I was like, oh, where is he? Where's my info? But he pulled his hamstring.
I was going to describe him as your trusted cornerman, but maybe he wasn't that impressive. As you say, he kind of gets it, and he knew what to tell you. He knew what you needed, and he must have been a good reassuring presence for you on race day.
He was, and even when the gap was big, he was filling me with positive information about what was going on up front. He was keeping me updated about how they were moving, and that allowed me to like just really internalize what I was doing, of just find my rhythm. And he was really good. And also with at that point as well, I could sort of say to him whether I wanted a drink or a gel at that point, which is again very useful, because then he could go back and pick it. Because even though we had a strategy, I could kind of have my own space to say to him and tell him if we're gonna give me some water or whatever before we got to that point. But he even before the race, he took charge. I mean, even things like just getting us to the course and all the little things that can happen. I just literally put all my race organization onto him, which made a massive difference. Because even, I mean, before a marathon, you're worrying about a lot of stuff, and I didn't even think about it. It was Mike did it all, and he actually said to me, or his partner said to me afterwards, it's one of his fondest memories he's ever had in athletics, because for both of us, we really had a good sort of connection of what we needed to get done. And he knew the challenge I'd had. And we did, after the race, after all the media and everything we'd done, we went back to the car to drive back. And he turned to me and he said, have you watched Only Fools and Horses when they sell was it the watch? And he said, have you seen the ending scene? I said, yeah, I have. He said, what was your result? And we went through the skit where they talk about how much was made, and then they calmly say to each other, oh, do you want to go first or shall I? Well, I think we should go together. And then we just started screaming. Like, it's a great scene. Do you know the scene I'm talking about?
I know Only Fools and Horses really well. I've watched umpteen episodes over the years, but I can't think of that scene you're talking about. I'll find it on YouTube later.
Yeah, look it up. It's when they're in the car after they become millionaires.
Yeah, you've intrigued me now.
But it was, and we just had it. There were so many times where I just had moments like that with people, and we just were able to go, wow, we pulled it off. But again, I don't know.
What did Alan say to you afterwards? Because he, you gave him a few good credits in your post-race interviews. I mean, that looked quite emotional as well. You were kind of, beating just a little bit with your hand, saying, "We did it, Alan."
We
really nice. I mean, he must have surely dropped you a line soon after the race.
Oh, so he my when I do any race, the first person I ring is Jemma, and in this instance she didn't pick up, unbelievably, and then the next person is Alan, and so I don't know what Jemma was doing. She was probably changing Theo. I know Jemma had to, actually, the point Jemma nearly missed the end of my race because she had. Well, I say nearly, she didn't nearly. It was just she had to get out the door to take Theo to an appointment to do a weigh-in, a 3-day weigh-in. And so she was like literally the finish of the race was she needed to get going. So she was actually in the appointment. But I rang Alan, and all I could say to him down the phone was like, we did it, mate. And we just had this choked, we could barely talk to each other. Like he just said, I'm so pleased for you. And I kept saying just thank you, just because he's more than a coach. He's an amazing friend, an incredible mentor. He doesn't I mean, when we communicate, he's not just helping me with training, he's also thinking about how I might make life easier with organization and structure, knowing that I've got a child on the way, knowing I've got different things going on in my life, and he will plan ahead, warn me of if I'm going down to Cornwall for a few days, he'll keep me posted on what the weather is. Make sure you pack this because the weather's going to be like. I mean, it's simple things, but he's
not just giving you sessions and say do this on a Monday morning, and it goes a lot beyond that.
It does, and he's never not there for me as a friend, to be honest with you, more than anything, because
How long is he coaching you for now, roughly?
So 2014 we started working together, literally the start. So that's 6, 7, just over, hang on, so it took 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and we're into 21. So 7 years and 3 months.
Yeah.
So a while. He's actually, I think that actually probably makes him my longest coach. Mick might be, but it's close, but it might be Alan.